Hey everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be talking about shaders. Shader presets can be an incredibly useful tool for any project in DAZ Studio, but they often get mistaken for material presets. So today I'm going to be defining what a shader is. I'm going to be talking about the difference between a shader preset and a material preset. I'm going to be talking about some of the different things you can use shader presets for in DAZ Studio, and I'm also going to be briefly touching on the difference between Iray materials and 3-to-Light materials, as well as how to change your render setting. Let's start things off by defining the difference between a shader and a material. A shader is a single material preset, whereas a material is defined as having multiple material presets. The biggest difference between the two are that shader presets can be applied to any selected surface, whereas a material preset can only be applied to an item with the same name as the material preset. To highlight the similarities and differences between materials and shaders, I'd like to quickly go over applying materials, as well as how Iray and 3-to-Light play into the importance of selecting materials. In DAZ Studio, there are typically two different material options you can use that will affect your render. You can render with 3-to-Light materials in the 3-to-Light engine, or you can render with Iray materials in the NVIDIA Iray engine. If you're running the 32-bit version of DAZ Studio, Iray will not be available. Let's say I want to change the hair color of my figure. To do this, I would want to select the figure, open up this drop-down, and then select the hair itself. Now I'm going to go into my content library and locate the folder for the hair. Under materials, you can see that Iray and 3-to-Light are two different subfolders within the material section. Under Iray, we can see MDL is listed in the product icon, and under 3-to-Light, we can see that RSL is listed in the icon. If there are not two separate folders for your materials, you can always check to see if RSL or if MDL is listed, and that'll give you a pretty good idea of whether or not you're working with 3-to-Light materials or if you're working with Iray materials. In this specific scene, I'm going to want to work with Iray materials, as everything else in the scene is using Iray. So I'm going to make sure that I have the hair selected in the scene pane, and then I'm going to select under the Iray folder with the MDL listed under materials in the icon, and I will want to double click on that material to apply it. Moving on now to shaders, applying a shader is similar but different to applying a material. There are two different ways you can apply a shader, and the first is going to be the one that's going to be a little bit easier, is to use the surface selection tool up in this toolbar. And if you don't have this listed in the toolbar, or if you don't have the toolbar open, you can get to this by holding Alt-Shift-M on your keyboard. Now that we have the surface selection tool selected, we're going to come over to this cube that we want to apply the shader to. The surface selection tool is handy because it'll select the surface in the scene as well as the object in the scene pane, and you need both the object selected and the surface to apply a shader. Now that we have the surface and the object selected, we can go under the shaders folder, under surfaces, presets, shaders, and since I'm going to be rendering an Iray, I'm going to double click here to apply the Iray Uber Base shader. Now I'm going to scroll down until I find a shader I like. Once I've found a shader, I'm going to hover over it. I'm going to make sure once again that I have the cube selected in the scene and the surface, and I do. And I'm going to double click on the shader to apply it. If you'd like to apply a shader without using the surface selection tool, the basic idea is the same, but the execution is a little bit different. First, you're going to want to make sure to select the object in the scene. Then you're going to come under Surfaces, and instead of jumping right to the Presets tab, we need to go to the Editor tab first. Then we're going to select the object, open this drop-down box, and then under Surfaces, we're going to select the surface that we'd like to add the shader to. Now that we have both the surface and the object selected in the scene, we can go under Presets, Shaders, and then find a shader and apply it to the character. Alright guys, that'll do it for this video. Be sure to stay tuned for more tutorials, and I'll see you guys next time.